When did a dream trip reveal your friends were monsters? Okay, buckle up, Reddit. I'm typing this from my 2018 Honda Civic, parked 3 rows down from the Starbucks on Main Street, trying desperately to siphon their weak-ass public Wi-Fi because my phone battery is at 3% and I literally cannot afford to go home yet. This whole thing blew up less than 48 hours ago, and I am still shaking. Honestly, if anyone told me last week that my seemingly solid friend group would implode over a perfectly curated Instagram aesthetic and a doomed trip to the Bahamas, I would have laughed. NGL, I'm currently eating a half-melted pint of Talenti gelato, sea salt caramel, naturally, straight out of the container because I have abandoned all pretense of sanity. I'm Julie, 34F, and until Tuesday at 11:47 a.m., I was just a guilty bystander in what I now realize was a years-long social media house of cards. This story involves 2 women who are, in different ways, complete monsters, and 1 incredible woman who saved my actual life. And no, I am not being dramatic. I don't even know where to start with this, so let's rewind to the core 4, or what was left of us. Dynamic was always weird, rooted in money and appearances, which in retrospect is the biggest red flag ever. Past me was such an idiot. We all met through work, specifically through Samantha Davis, ADF. Samantha Sam, as she insisted we call her, despite the fact that she was the CEO of the nonprofit we all worked for and acted like a feudal lord, is the definition of an entitled boss. She's 80 years old and has the energy of a hyperactive toddler, fueled by pure entitlement and expensive green juice. Think Miranda Priestley, but with a much worse filter and a tendency to tag herself in every post even when she wasn't in the photo. She expects everyone around her to cater to her specific, usually impossible, demands. Example, last Tuesday she made her assistant call 27 different flower shops in an hour because she specifically wanted a lavender peony arrangement flown in from Holland before 5:30 p.m., even though peonies are wildly out of season right now. That kind of chaotic energy is just who she is. Then there's Elizabeth Harris, 44F. Oh, Elizabeth. She's the one who held the group together, but only because she's a master manipulator and, frankly, a massive gold digger. Elizabeth looks like she stepped off a yacht haul designer labels, perfectly applied filler, and a permanent tan. She only hangs out with people who can materially benefit her life. She latched onto Samantha years ago because of Samantha's wealth and connections. Elizabeth never paid for anything, ever. I mean, literally everything from the $43.67 grocery bill at Trader Joe's to the monthly $1,247 rent for her extremely chic apartment 3B was covered by some arrangement or another, usually involving rich, vaguely elderly men, or, more often, Samantha. She lived for the aesthetic. Her entire existence was Instagram content. Perfect lattes, curated travel shots, expensive gifts casually placed in the background. If it wasn't Instagrammable, Elizabeth wasn't doing it. She once threw a fit because her $347 bill for a dinner we all shared wasn't paid for by her date quickly enough for her to post a cryptic, blessed story before the ice in her cocktail melted. She's obsessed with maintaining this facade of effortless luxury. And then there's Alexis Cook, 65F. Alexis is the CFO at Samantha's nonprofit, but she's essentially invisible in the group's social hierarchy because she's quiet, practical, and refuses to participate in the Instagram nonsense. Alexis is the kind of woman who uses a Samsung Galaxy with a cracked screen, still pays in cash, and wears the same sensible shoes every day. I always respected Alexis, but she was definitely the odd woman out. She just observed silently from the sidelines, usually looking stressed out about the budget. She seemed perpetually exhausted from trying to make the organization run while Samantha was busy demanding out-of-season flowers. And me, Julie, 34F, I am the guilty bystander. I'm just trying to keep my head down, manage my anxiety, and pay off my student loans. I hate confrontation. I mostly got pulled into this group because I was the only one in the office young enough to understand how to manage Samantha's online presence, which meant I had to attend all the social functions to take the good pictures. I basically lived in fear of being unfollowed. I was usually the one nervously balancing the emotional tightrope between Elizabeth's demands for perfection and Samantha's chaotic whims. Whole thing started revolving around the holiday disaster, this enormous, ridiculously expensive 2-week trip to a private villa in the Bahamas that Samantha planned for Christmas. This wasn't just a trip. This was supposed to be Elizabeth's crowning jewel of her Instagram year and Samantha's way of showing off her chosen family. I had already used all my PTO hours for the year, but Samantha basically forced me to schedule 2 weeks off, claiming it was mandatory team building. Translation, Julie needs to be there to take professional quality photos of us looking happy. 2 weeks ago, things started to get dicey. Elizabeth was micromanaging the entire trip, sending triple texts constantly in our group chat about the vision. She had a mood board, a literal mood board with color palettes for our swimwear. I swear to God. Then the money talk started. Samantha, who is a multimillionaire, decided that we all needed to contribute $2,500 each for incidentals because, quote, "It's tacky to think I'll cover absolutely everything, darling. Where's the fun in that?" This was fine for Elizabeth, whose money seemed to magically materialize via Zelle transactions from mysterious sources. But for me, $2,500 was huge. I had just paid my $1,247 rent, my car insurance, and was still stressing about a massive $85 plumber charge for a leaky faucet. I was already checking my Venmo history and counting my remaining funds. I brought it up to Elizabeth quietly when we were waiting for Samantha at a Starbucks on Main Street, the same one I'm currently parked outside of. Me? Hey, I am a little worried about the $2,500. Just don't have that liquidity right now. Is there any chance we could negotiate the incidental contribution? Elizabeth, sipping a ridiculously complicated matcha latte, eyes glued to her iPhone 14, Julie, don't be gauche, it's the Bahamas. If you can't swing $2,500, maybe you shouldn't be traveling with us. It screams desperation. I felt my cheeks flush. I'm not desperate, I just have a budget I have to save every month. Elizabeth, exactly. This trip isn't about budgeting, honey. It's about projecting success. Think of the content. The exposure alone will be worth more than $2,500. Honestly, you need to elevate your mindset. She then took a boomerang of the perfect foam art on her latte and captioned it, Paradise Preparations. I just nodded, doing that thing where you smile and nod while internally screaming. I felt so small and stupid for even bringing it up. The whole thing escalated 2 days later last Monday because of a swimsuit post. Elizabeth posted a photo of herself in a tiny, expensive white bikini, tagged under Bahamas Dreaming, and it got instant traction. Samantha commented, "Stunning, can't wait for our adventure." Elizabeth replied, "Only the best for you, Sam." Now, here's where Alexis, 65F, finally stepped into the ring. She usually stays completely off social media, but she made a burner Instagram account, I swear, just for this with a profile picture of a sad cat. Alexis's burner commented on Elizabeth's post, "Will that $2,500 per person cover the $7,000 extra we need to finalize the rental of the private yacht, or are we chipping in more?" Silence. Instant, terrifying silence in the group chat. Elizabeth deleted the comment almost instantly, but I saw it, and I screenshotted it, because past me knew this was going to be popcorn worthy. Elizabeth immediately DM'd Alexis on the corporate Slack channel, because Alexis doesn't check her personal texts often. "Alexis, what was that? Are you trying to sabotage my brand?" Alexis replied with a very dry, professional memo. "I am simply trying to understand the financials of the $50,000 organizational expense Samantha has earmarked for a team-building retreat. As CFO, the math isn't mathing, Elizabeth. You already spent $200 on that crystal wine stopper last week under miscellaneous travel gear. Is the $2,500 from the rest of us going straight into your shopping budget? OH. My God." Elizabeth, of course, ran straight to Samantha, claiming Alexis was unstable and jealous. Samantha, being the entitled boss she is, immediately sided with Elizabeth because Elizabeth makes her look good on Instagram. Samantha, "Alexis, this is unacceptable behavior. You are far too sensitive. We are all family. Just because you don't understand the nuance of personal branding doesn't mean you get to publicly shame Elizabeth." Alexis, "Samantha, I am worried about the optics of using nonprofit operational funds to bankroll a gold-plated vacation simply for Elizabeth's Instagram content. The amount of $200 withdrawals and questionable Zelle transactions related to yacht provisions is staggering." Samantha started gaslighting Alexis immediately. "That never happened. You are remembering it wrong. You're being dramatic. I never said the organization was paying for anything. I was simply covering my half." Lie, big lie, we all knew. Alexis, bless her practical heart, just sent a PDF of the accounting ledger. The mic drop of all mic drops. It clearly showed about $15,000 in nonprofit funds earmarked for logistics training that had gone directly to the luxury villa deposit. The group fractured instantly. Alexis was iced out. Elizabeth and Samantha started planning an exclusive girls' night without Alexis. I was stuck in the middle. I didn't want to get fired, but I was disgusted. I saw Alexis in the office stairwell the next day, chewing on a granola bar and looking defeated. Me, Alexis, I saw the ledger, I'm sorry. Alexis, 65F, don't be sorry, Julie, be smart. This isn't just about the money. Elizabeth is fundamentally toxic, and Samantha is blind because Elizabeth tells her she looks 20 years younger on her feed. They are feeding off each other's delusion. She then pulled out her ancient Samsung Galaxy, cracked screen, battery dying at 3%, and showed me a text exchange she had been having with a private investigator. Me, wait, Pi, what are you investigating? Alexis, I've been trying to figure out where Elizabeth's money really comes from, beyond Samantha's pocket. It's too steady, too large, and too clean for what she claims is freelance social media consulting. I knew something was off, and I've been tracking things since she started talking about the Bahamas trip last fall. I felt my stomach drop. You think she's doing something illegal? Alexis shrugged, adjusted her sensible glasses. No, worse. I think she's running a long con on Samantha, and I think it's about to hit critical mass right before the holiday. I was already late for an 8 a.m. Zoom meeting, but I couldn't move. What kind of con? Alexis leaned in, speaking quietly. Remember how Samantha kept talking about buying that condo in Miami? The one next to the Peloton headquarters? Yeah, she posted a picture of the view on her story. Super high-end, $3 million or something. Alexis, she thinks she bought it. Elizabeth handled the paperwork, but according to the PI, the title is registered to a shell company owned entirely by Elizabeth Harris. I looked at Alexis. I literally couldn't speak. My jaw dropped. A cartoon character jaw drop. Wait, what? What are you saying? Elizabeth stole a $3 million property from an 80-year-old woman? Alexis, she didn't steal it. She tricked Samantha into signing the papers over to her entity under the guise of tax sheltering logistics. She did it right around the time Samantha was recovering from that minor surgery and was highly medicated. It's disgusting. She literally manipulated an elderly woman to steal her assets after all Samantha has done for her. The audacity, the sheer audacity. I was literally shaking, full body shaking. This was not friend group drama. This was actual grand larceny. And I was supposed to be sharing a tiny villa bathroom with this woman in 2 weeks. Alexis continued, the only reason she wants us all on that Bahamas trip is to isolate Samantha completely when the final transfer happens. She wants Samantha far away from her lawyers and her family so that when the news breaks, Elizabeth has already laundered the money or secured the assets, and she can play the victim for me. My friend group turned on me on Instagram. And you're telling Samantha this, right? Alexis looked tired. I tried. I sent her the PI's preliminary report 2 days ago. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, you're just jealous of Elizabeth's youthful energy, Alexis. I'm blocking you until you apologize for being so negative. She blocked me on everything: text, email, even LinkedIn. She has completely shut me out. She's deep in the delusion. I suddenly felt sick. I realized that my role in the Bahamas trip wasn't just to take photos, it was to act as another layer of social camouflage. So, what do? I whispered, looking around paranoidly. We walk away, Julie, immediately. We walk away from the trip, the job, and the entire toxic friendship group, Alexis said firmly. I already gave my 60-day notice, effective this morning. I'm done trying to save the nonprofit from its own entitled CEO. You need to pull out of the trip, too. Don't go to the Bahamas. If you go, you are validating this scheme. I spent the rest of Monday panicking. I had a massive panic attack that night. Ended up ordering Olive Garden takeout and just staring at my cracked screen for hours, toggling between Elizabeth's cheerful Instagram stories, now featuring a $500 designer travel pillow, and the screenshot of Alexis's pie report. I couldn't eat. My stress acne was flaring up badly. On Tuesday morning, I went to work, intending to talk to HR. But before I could, Elizabeth cornered me by the coffee machine. Elizabeth, all forced sympathy. Hey, I saw Alexis' resignation email. Sad, but honestly, she was always too much of a negative presence. She just couldn't handle the success. Me. Elizabeth, about the trip, Elizabeth? Oh, it's fine. Samantha decided since Alexis isn't coming, she's gifting her portion of the incidentals back to us. That's $1,250 back in your pocket. You just need to Venmo me the remaining $1,250 by Friday so I can wire the final funds for the private chef. Are you bringing your Nikon? The light in the villa is going to be amazing. She had managed to turn a massive criminal revelation into a discounted vacation and a photo opportunity. The way she manipulated everything was breathtaking. She was smiling, but her eyes were cold. She had her Apple Watch on, probably tracking her steps to ensure she hit her 10K goal before lunch. I stared at her and felt the rage. I saw red. The money, the facade, the betrayal of an 80-year-old woman, and the sheer audacity of trying to drag me into this. Me, I'm not going, Elizabeth. The smile slipped. Excuse me? I am not going to the Bahamas. I'm also not giving you any more money, and I think you know exactly why. Her veneer of composure finally broke. Is this about Alexis? She's feeding you lies. She's crazy, Julie. You're being manipulated. Gaslighting 101. I saw the pie report, Elizabeth. I know about the condo, I said, my voice shaking but loud enough that two nearby coworkers definitely stopped their whispering about the weekend to listen. Elizabeth's face went white. She physically recoiled, dropping her AirPods. You're crazy. That never happened. You're trying to ruin me because you're jealous. Can't afford my life, so you want to tear it down. I never said that. That pie is lying. I am officially walking away from the trip, and I am putting in my notice, I stated, trying to sound much more confident than I felt. I was terrified she was going to scream. She didn't scream. She did something much worse. She switched immediately back to the victim. After all I've done for you, I got you that promotion last year, and you choose that jealous, pathetic old woman over me? Fine. Have fun dealing with Samantha. You know how she is when someone backs out of her plans. And good luck explaining why you think I committed financial fraud on Instagram. She spun around and walked straight into Samantha's office. 10 minutes later, I got a text, not from Samantha, but from her assistant, who had clearly been ordered to write it. Assistant's text: Julie, Samantha has asked me to inform you that your vacation days are now considered unavailable due to unforeseen circumstances regarding team commitment. Your employment status is under review. Please respond to this email with immediate confirmation that you are still attending the Bahamas team retreat. If you do not reply confirming your attendance by 5:00 p.m., your access to the office will be immediately revoked. It was 11:47 a.m. I looked at that text, felt the massive weight of job security, my $1,247 rent, and the terror of being fired hanging over me. I wanted to call Alexis, but she was still blocked. I wanted to call my mom, but I knew she'd just say, I never liked those people anyway. Instead, I looked at the hideous, fake tan-stained executive bathroom and I realized I was done, just done. I refused to let Elizabeth Harris, the gold digger, drag me into her complicated, expensive, fraudulent mess just so she could get the perfect yacht photo for her feed. I walked straight past HR, past Samantha's office. I could hear Elizabeth's dramatically tearful voice inside, and I went to my desk. I put my laptop, my iPhone 14 charger, and my half-empty bottle of generic ibuprofen into my backpack. Grabbed the spare key to the office supply closet, petty, I know, but those good pens are expensive, and walked out. I texted the assistant back a simple message. I will not be attending the Bahamas team retreat. I consider this my immediate resignation. I walked to the parking lot, got into my beat-up 2018 Honda Civic, and drove straight to the coffee shop on Main Street where I had last felt sane. I started driving, and my phone, already struggling, went berserk. Notifications were popping up like crazy. I pulled over just to look. It wasn't Samantha or Elizabeth trying to call me. It was Alexis. She hadn't been blocked from calling me, just texting. She called me 27 times in the span of 15 minutes. I finally answered on the 28th call. I was crying, mascara running everywhere, and I could barely breathe. Me? Alexis, I quit. I told Elizabeth I know about the condo. I'm out. I'm completely out. Alexis, J-Will. Thank God. Listen to me. Get out of the city now. And whatever you do, do not look at Instagram. Just drive. Why? What happened? I choked out, wiping the snot and tears with my sleeve. Alexis's voice was tight, high-pitched, and panicking, something I had never heard from the unflappable CFO. They didn't just fire you, Julie. Elizabeth went nuclear. She just posted a story that Samantha reposted, and it's trending on TikTok. It's a completely fabricated narrative claiming you tried to steal the organization's petty cash and that you've been harassing them about the trip because you can't afford to travel and you're mentally unstable. She used that screenshot you sent her last week, the one where you joked about needing to hide under your desk after a terrible meeting, and caption it, "Witnessing the meltdown. Always trust your gut when it comes to unstable people." Oh my God, I whispered, pulling my hair. She used my own joke against me? It gets worse, Alexis said grimly. She also tagged your personal Instagram account and told her 50K followers to check the history of financial discrepancies at the nonprofit, and implied you were fired for trying to steal money, linking back to that completely legitimate $200 withdrawal from last month that was for office supplies. I felt nauseous. This was professional assassination. And Samantha didn't stop her. Samantha is currently filming a live video on the nonprofit's official account with Elizabeth, saying they're purging the negativity and that the Bahamas trip is back on track. You are officially canceled, publicly and professionally. You're going viral, Julie, and not in a good way. I threw my iPhone 14 onto the passenger seat, my head spinning. I suddenly realized that the reason my battery was almost dead wasn't just my usage, it was the constant onslaught of notifications. I couldn't go home. I couldn't face the internet. I just sat here in the Target parking lot, eating ice cream and listening to Alexis ragged breathing over the phone. Alexis took a deep breath. Julie, I'm already driving to meet you. Don't go to your apartment. You need to come to my mom's house in Westfield. We need to figure out how to counter this before your name is permanently ruined. I have the Pi's full file, and we're going to use it. First, I need to tell you something absolutely crucial about the private villa in the Bahamas. My hands were shaking so violently, I almost dropped the phone. What? What is it, Alexis? That villa Elizabeth chose? It's not just a private resort. The reason the price was so high and the lease so complicated is because it's completely controlled by a very specific, politically exposed foreign entity. If you set foot on that property while the nonprofit's money is involved, you are not only complicit in fraud, but according to the Pi, you might be accidentally violating international sanctions law. What does that mean? It means that if the fraud breaks while they are all there, the government might seize the property. And if they seize the property while Elizabeth and Samantha are physically on it, they could be detained indefinitely, Alexis stated flatly. If you were there, Julie, you would have been trapped too. The Bahamas trip isn't a vacation. It's a potential international hostage situation created by a gold digger trying to run a final con. Now, meet me outside the Chick-fil-A entrance of the Target in 30 minutes. We have a lot of work to do. I looked down at the $4 Talenti carton in my hand. International hostage situation? Over an Instagram aesthetic. I thought I was just getting out of a toxic friendship and a bad job. I hung up, heart racing. My car smelled like sea salt caramel. My phone battery hit 1%. I realized I was still technically in the Target parking lot, just rows away from the Starbucks where I had last talked to Elizabeth about her matcha latte. I pulled out of the parking spot, terrified but strangely exhilarated. I had my freedom, but I had lost everything else. My job, my friends, my reputation, all gone in 48 hours because of a woman obsessed with perfect social media content. I needed to see the posts. I told myself not to look at Instagram, but the compulsion was too strong. I parked under a weak street lamp, plugged in the charger, and opened the app. Elizabeth's story popped up first. A selfie of her tear-streaked face, perfectly lit, naturally captioned, "Say a prayer for us dealing with so much betrayal right now. Oh, thankful for my real family." Then I saw the post below it. It wasn't Elizabeth's. It was from Samantha Davis, the entitled Boss ADF. It was a picture of a massive, gaudy diamond necklace. The caption was short. My eyes scanned it and my breath caught in my throat, stopping the tears instantly. Just booked the final vendor for the Bahamas trip. So excited to show Elizabeth my Christmas surprise. Everything is settled now. And thanks to my incredible fiancé, everything is better than ever. I world tilted. Fiancé? Samantha was engaged? To whom? When? I clicked on the photo to see who she had tagged. The tag pointed directly at Elizabeth Harris, 44F. Samantha was marrying the gold digger. I stared at the screen and the phone died instantly. Black. Silent. I was sitting in the dark, knowing that the international incident was now going to involve a hostile, multi-million-dollar prenuptial agreement, and I had just publicly accused the bride to be a fraud. I started the car and pulled out onto the road, headed for Westfield. I didn't know if I was driving toward an escape or straight into the middle of the most chaotic, legally dubious, high-stakes drama of my entire life. All I knew was that I was terrified, heartbroken, and now I desperately needed to know what Alexis knew about the Bahamian villa. Okay, you guys, I am physically incapable of recap, so let's just pick up in the Honda Civic, driving to Westfield, phone dead, smelling faintly of expensive caramel ice cream, and knowing that my 80-year-old former boss is engaged to the 44-year-old gold digger who tricked her into signing over a $3 million condo. NGL, my brain had completely short-circuited. I was driving about 20 mph under the limit because I literally could not process the implications of Samantha and Elizabeth being engaged. I mean, Samantha is 80. Elizabeth is definitely hot and manipulative, but marrying her boss, who is 5 decades older for financial security, is some next-level performance art. Got to the Chick-fil-A parking lot 45 minutes later. Traffic was awful, and my car needs new tires, which is just another layer of financial dread I am stuffing deep down. Alexis was waiting for me, leaning against a beat-up Toyota Camry that looked even older than my Civic. She was wearing a sensible puffy coat and sipping a suspiciously large Diet Coke. She looked exactly the same as she always did, calm, practical, stressed, but there was a wildfire burning behind her sensible glasses. I jumped out of the car, crying again, and she just hugged me. It was a terrible, awkward hug because I am not a hugger and Alexis is definitely not a hugger, but it was exactly what I needed. It was a non-judgmental, stress-absorbing hug. Me, Alexis, the phone died, I saw the post. Samantha is engaged to Elizabeth. FINCE. What in God's name is happening? Alexis, pulling back, handing me a napkin. We need to go, Julie. Can talk in the car, but we need to get off public Wi-Fi networks and definitely off the corporate grid. Get your car parked next to mine. We did the car shuffle. I plugged my phone into the world's slowest charger. Alexis got into the passenger seat of my Civic, holding a fat manila folder. Okay, Julie, first, deep breath. You did the right thing walking away. You saved yourself from a massive legal nightmare. A legal nightmare that now involves wedding bells, I whispered. The condo thing's still happening? Did Elizabeth force her? No, I don't think it was force, Alexis said, sighing deeply. I think it was highly strategic psychological manipulation timed perfectly with her recovery from surgery. Samantha wants to look desirable, young, and relevant. Elizabeth gave her the ultimate validation, a hot, well-dressed, Instagram-perfect partner. The engagement is the final, ultimate camouflage for the theft. She flipped open the manila folder. Inside were dozens of printed-out bank statements, emails, and pie notes. Here's the new complication regarding the Bahamas trip. We need to talk about the villa, Alexis explained, pointing to a document that looked like a complicated foreign lease agreement. When I hired the Pi last month, he wasn't just tracking Elizabeth's personal finances, he was tracking the flow of nonprofit funds earmarked for that retreat. She tapped the lease. Villa is controlled by a holding company based in Tortola, which is owned by a guy named Dmitry Petrov. He is, to put it lightly, a person of interest to several international financial bodies. The villa isn't just expensive, it's an asset that is currently under a soft freeze due to suspicion of money laundering related to a specific energy sector in a certain Eastern European country. I'm not going to say the country out loud. I stared at her. You were saying that Elizabeth, the gold digger, rented a yacht vacation spot that is literally a money laundering front for international criminals. Precisely, Alexis confirmed calmly. And the nonprofit's $15,000 deposit, plus the $2,500 contribution from you, me, and theoretically everyone else, is mixed in there now. This makes every single person who steps foot on that property, while the fraud is ongoing, complicit in violating those sanctions. If the U.S. government, or worse, the Bahamian authorities, decide to seize that asset, they won't care if you're just the photographer. You are collateral. Hostage is a strong word, but detention is highly likely. My hands started sweating. I was genuinely terrified. I had been worried about getting fired. I hadn't even considered international detainment. So the Bahamas trip is a trap, I mumbled. It's the perfect endgame for Elizabeth, Alexis said, closing the file. She gets Samantha on the property, far from her lawyers. She gets the perfect Instagram engagement announcement. She gets her hands on the jewelry, the final money transfers happen, and when the authorities swoop in, Elizabeth can spin a narrative of poor me, caught in a global conspiracy, while the chaos hides the condo theft. And the engagement ring? I asked, remembering the massive diamond. Alexis nodded. The Pi confirms it's an 8-carat, conflict-free diamond. Estimated value, $650,000. Guess what account paid for it 2 days ago? Don't tell me. The nonprofit's disaster relief fund, coded as emergency security consultant fees. I mean, the sheer audacity. A week went by where I was essentially a ghost. I stayed with Alexis at her mom's place in Westfield, which was very quiet, very clean, and smelled faintly of lavender and old books. Alexis' mom, BTW, is amazing. She kept feeding me stew and telling me to ignore the internet. Best advice ever. Ignoring the internet was impossible, though. My phone finally charged and the notifications were biblical. I had 47 missed calls, mostly from mutual acquaintances panicking, and about 300 DMs. I made the mistake of looking at TikTok. Elizabeth's story had gone viral. One had clipped her tearful, perfectly lit selfie and added a dramatic voiceover about toxic ex-workers trying to destroy success. It was horrible. I was being called the green-eyed monster of Main Street. People were commenting on my old posts. The few blurry ones I allowed myself to keep up calling me a thief, a liar, and demanding I return the stolen petty cash. That $200 office supply charge was now public knowledge, completely ripped out of context. I deactivated Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. It felt like dying, honestly, because my entire social life had been tied up in those platforms, but Alexis insisted. The moment you try to defend yourself, you give their narrative energy, Julie. We have to wait until the inevitable financial firestorm hits them. The immediate reality was that I was jobless. I had about $1,800 left in my bank account after paying my rent. Thank God, I hadn't paid Elizabeth the remaining $1,250 for the trip. I was due to move out of my apartment at the end of the month, but I couldn't afford a new lease and the security deposit without a job. Alexis, meanwhile, was working nonstop from her mom's kitchen table. She was essentially performing an extreme exit audit for the nonprofit. She had compiled a 78-page report detailing every single financial irregularity linked to Elizabeth and Samantha over the last 3 years. I need to protect myself when the authorities finally look at the books, she explained to me one night over instant mashed potatoes. I'm the CFO. Even though I flagged everything, I need to show a clear paper trail of my descent. Or my most reliable witness, Julie, because you saw Elizabeth's demands firsthand and you saw Samantha ignore the Pi report. Do you really think Samantha knew what she was doing with the condo, or was she just high on meds? I asked. I needed to know if Samantha was truly evil or just incredibly entitled and gullible. A bit of both, Alexis mused. Samantha has always been driven by ego. Elizabeth figured out that Samantha's biggest weakness is her fear of being irrelevant. Elizabeth convinced her the condo deal was some ultra-secretive tax shelter that would make her look like a financial genius. The documents were complex, but Samantha had to sign them. She was reckless, but Elizabeth is pure predatory. Fast forward to Friday, 3 days before the Bahamas trip was scheduled to launch. I had spent the last 72 hours applying for generic administrative jobs and freaking out. My anxiety was through the roof. I actually cried in the shower because I ran out of my expensive hair conditioner and realized I couldn't buy a new bottle until I got paid. That's where my life was, crying over conditioner. Alexis and I were at her mom's dining room table, reviewing my finances. Okay, worst case scenario, you start driving for Uber part-time to cover gas and groceries. Alexis stated, ever practical. In this case, we use this pie leverage to force a non-disparagement agreement, or at least a settlement from the nonprofit before they implode. They need you to stop talking just as much as Elizabeth needs you to look like a liar. I looked at her, realizing how much she was sacrificing. Alexis, why are you doing all this? You could have just walked away cleanly. She stopped typing on her ancient Samsung. Because Elizabeth is a parasite, Julie. She preys on generosity and ego. She tried to make you complicit in something that could ruin your life permanently just for a perfect vacation photo. I hate her brand of cruelty. And frankly, someone has to pay for my new pair of sensible walking shoes because I just wore a hole in the bottom of these trying to save the financial legacy of a nonprofit. She paused. Also, Samantha blocked me. That was unforgivable. She was smiling slightly, but I knew she was serious. This was about justice, not just survival. Suddenly, her phone beeped. Not the cracked Samsung, but a burner phone she had bought specifically for communication outside the corporate channels. Alexis looked at the text and her face went completely still. Oh no, she whispered me. What? Is it the pie? Did they get on a plane early? Alexis? No, it's Carol, Samantha's assistant. Carol was about 22, severely overworked, and perpetually terrified of Samantha. He was essentially my counterpart in dealing with Samantha's daily entitlement. Alexis read the text aloud. Carol says Elizabeth is freaking out. They are supposed to leave for the airport at 5:00 a.m. Monday morning for a private jet. But Elizabeth just found out that Dmitry Petrov, the guy who owns the villa, was detained by Interpol 2 hours ago in Geneva for unrelated charges. She also says the Bahamian government has issued a hold on his assets, including the villa. My jaw dropped. So the international sanctions thing happened. It wasn't about Elizabeth's fraud, it was about the original owner? It's about to get worse, Alexis said, rapidly typing a response to Carol. Carol says Elizabeth is trying to spin this to Samantha as just a minor logistical delay, but is secretly contacting a high-powered attorney in Miami to see if she can force the villa lease through, hoping the detention will lift quickly. She doesn't want to lose the photo opportunity. She's prioritizing the photo op over potential prison time? I was aghast. She's prioritizing the content, Julie. Always, Alexis confirmed. But here's the kicker. Carol says Samantha's eldest daughter, who usually lives in Europe and is very financially savvy, is flying in unexpectedly tonight. She smelled a rat when she saw the engagement announcement on Instagram. This was the wrench in Elizabeth's perfect machine. Family intervention. The daughter's going to see the pie report, right? Asked, hopeful. Carol is slipping the redacted report to the daughter's security detail tonight, Alexis confirmed, nodding sharply. We are officially out of the game. We have done our part. Now we watch the entitled implosion from the sidelines. By Tuesday, I was back in my own apartment. I had exactly 2 days left on my lease. My goal was to pack everything, clean the place, and get the security deposit back. I was terrified of running into Elizabeth or Samantha, but they were supposed to be airborne to their luxurious, potentially internationally sanctioned, prison villa. I had decided to walk away completely from the chaos. I wasn't going to try to sue them yet. I was going to focus on finding a job and surviving. Alexis had agreed to serve as a character reference for me, emphasizing my ethical stance in leaving the nonprofit. He'd even written me a script on how to explain my sudden departure without divulging the full extent of the fraud. The script: I resigned due to significant philosophical differences regarding financial transparency and leadership structure, and I am focused on finding a role that aligns with my long-term ethical goals. Sounds professional, even if the philosophical difference was my boss is a thief engaged to a gold digger who works for international criminals. I was sitting on the floor, surrounded by boxes, eating cold pizza when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but my job-hunting anxiety told me to answer everything. Me, hello? Voice deep, authoritative, clearly wealthy. Is this Julie Washington? Me, yes it is. Voice, this is Catherine Davis, Samantha Davis's daughter. My stomach performed the famous Olympic synchronized swimming routine. I went cold. Samantha's daughter. This was the moment I got sued for slander or worse. Catherine, I'm calling because I need to apologize to you, Julie, on behalf of my mother and the terrible way you were treated last week. I blinked, genuinely stunned. You don't have to apologize. It was complicated. Catherine, it was criminal, not complicated. Alexis Cook reached out to me, and frankly, I owe that woman a statue. Have reviewed her exit audit and the pie's complete report regarding the Miami condo and the use of the disaster relief fund for an engagement ring. Her voice was tight with contained rage. I flew in Sunday, saw the ring, saw the social media posts about you, and confronted Elizabeth yesterday morning at 3:00 a.m. She folded faster than a cheap suit, Julie. She's a professional predator, but she's a terrible liar. Me, wait, what about the trip? Are they still going? Catherine sighed, a huge, exhausted sound. No, the trip is off. I had the private jet grounded and notified the nonprofit board, who, bless their hearts, were completely clueless of the financial improprieties. They have now frozen all organizational accounts and are commencing an emergency internal review. They also immediately hired forensic accountants. What about Samantha and Elizabeth? I asked, terrified of the answer. Elizabeth is gone. Left my mother's penthouse at 4:00 a.m. yesterday with one suitcase and the diamond ring. She told my mother she was leaving because we were jealous haters and she couldn't deal with the toxic family environment. Classic victim narrative. So she kept the ring? For now, Catherine confirmed. I filed a police report 5 hours ago regarding the misappropriation of funds. My legal team is handling the engagement ring, the theft of the condo, and the fraudulent transactions. You're prepared to pursue criminal charges. I felt a rush of relief so intense I almost passed out. Wow, that is unbelievable. The most unbelievable part, when I presented my mother with irrefutable evidence, the pie report, the signed condo documents, the wire transfers, she finally broke down. She admitted it. She admitted everything, Julie. but not because of the fraud. Catherine's voice was full of bitter exhaustion. She admitted it because she realized that Elizabeth wasn't actually planning to marry her for love. She was devastated that the perfect relationship aesthetic that Elizabeth cultivated for Instagram was all a performance. The condo, the ring, the Bahamas, it was all about the veneer of success. That was the Samantha of it, wasn't it? Not the crime, but the embarrassment of realizing her life wasn't Instagrammable after all. Catherine continued, "Look, I know you were collateral damage in all of this. My mother is currently extremely fragile, and she has finally realized the extent of the betrayal. I am going to make sure the nonprofit issues a formal, public retraction of the claims Elizabeth made about you, and I will personally pay your salary for the next 3 months until you find suitable employment. I cannot undo the social media damage, but I can ensure you have a financial cushion." I started crying again, but this time it was relief. "Catherine, I don't know what to say. That is incredibly generous. Say thank you to Alexis. She saved us all from an even bigger disaster. She knew how to play this game." 2 days after that, I was officially homeless but financially stable. I had packed up my Honda Civic with everything I owned. I signed the paperwork for a very small, very ugly studio apartment about 45 minutes away from my old city, a fresh start in a place where no one knew, the green-eyed monster of Main Street. Alexis drove the U-Haul and helped me move in. We ordered pizza, sat on the floor, and I finally felt like I could breathe. "So, what happened to Elizabeth?" I asked, wiping grease off my chin. "She's gone completely dark," Alexis said, sipping her Diet Coke. "Her Instagram account still exists, but the comments are turned off and she hasn't posted anything since that tearful selfie. Official nonprofit account posted a very sterile, very boring legal statement about unforeseen financial restructuring that indirectly confirms everything we knew. Do you think she'll ever face charges? Honestly, probably. Catherine has the resources and the motivation, but Elizabeth is resourceful. She'll likely end up in court for years, dragging it out, trying to leverage some kind of settlement. But she's done in this city, TBH. The aesthetic collapsed." I took a bite of pizza. Samantha is being monitored by her daughter. The legal consequences for her are more complicated due to her age and the medication aspect, but she has lost the company she built, her fiancé, and her $3 million condo. She's facing the ultimate cancellation, not just on Instagram, but in real life. Alexis looked at me. She lost her curated world. I realized that the biggest loss for Samantha wasn't the money, but the image Elizabeth had sold her. It was true poetic justice. It's been 6 weeks since I walked out of that office. I am typing this from a folding chair in my new studio apartment, which, yeah, is a shoebox, but the light is good, and it's mine. I officially started a new administrative job last Monday for a company that makes sustainable packaging. It's boring, but my boss is nice, and they pay me on time, and the biggest office drama is who forgot to refill the coffee pot. I'm still dealing with the fallout. Internet never truly forgets. Every few days, some random spam bot or old mutual friend will try to resurrect the drama, calling me a thief. I just block and move on. The biggest change? My relationship with Alexis, 65F, the unexpected ally. She actually came over last night with a bottle of decent Chardonnay and a complicated spreadsheet detailing how I should restructure my student loan payments. She doesn't use Instagram still, and she never talks about the drama unless I bring it up, but she keeps showing up in real life, which is something none of my old friends ever did. She's not just a character reference, she's genuinely becoming a friend. She taught me something crucial that night in the Civic. Walking away from toxicity isn't a failure, it's a strategy. I had spent years being the guilty bystander, terrified of confrontation, and obsessed with maintaining the delicate balance of that toxic friendship because I was afraid of being canceled or poor. I let Elizabeth and Samantha dictate my reality, my budget, and even my PTO schedule, just so I could fit into their expensive, fake, curated world. The moment I walked away, the moment I chose my own sanity and ethics over my job and the illusion of friendship, that's when the real consequences hit the monsters, not me. I realized that I didn't lose my friends, I lost my complicity in their expensive farce. I'm still recovering financially, TBH. Catherine's severance money was a lifesaver, but job hunting sucks. I stress ate through most of the immediate crisis and definitely gained 5 pounds, but my stress acne is finally clearing up. I still check my bank account obsessively, but I no longer feel that deep, paralyzing fear of saying no to something expensive. I even did something I never thought I would do. I found the burner Instagram account Elizabeth had set up for all her pre-Bahamas outfit posts. She hadn't deleted it. It was full of highly aesthetic, hyper-luxurious photos of things she definitely couldn't afford anymore. I didn't comment or tag anyone. I just hit the report button for fraud scam. Petty. Yes, necessary. Also yes. The account disappeared 48 hours later. My biggest victory? I finally changed the password to the Netflix account I used to share with the whole friend group, even though I was the one paying for it. That felt like true, final resolution. Some people messaged asking if I was ever tempted to text Elizabeth or Samantha, even just to gloat. Honestly, no. I'm so emotionally exhausted by the sheer effort required to maintain their drama that I physically cannot care anymore. I walked away and I am not looking back. I still have a picture of that Talenti sea salt caramel container on my phone from the day I quit. It's my little reminder that sometimes, when your world implodes, the only thing you can do is pull over, find the nearest public Wi-Fi, eat ice cream, and start making a run for it. Anyway, that's the update. I'm focusing on paying rent and buying better conditioner. I'll update if I see Elizabeth running a small, highly aesthetic pyramid scheme on a cruise ship, but for now, I am just enjoying the silence. Good luck, Reddit. Stay safe out there and always screenshot the ledger.